All right, so I think we're live now.
Yay!
Hey everyone.
Morning.
Hello, good morning.
Or good evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
Good evening. Definitely, most people good evening.
Let's just wait for 1 minute to see if we get any feedback about the connection. Make sure people could hear us. I think Maya for the Instagram. Yeah, that's not live. So we're going live today on YouTube and Instagram. We'll be talking about the EF journey. It looks like we have one person in.
Yay. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Let's just give it 1 minute. Yeah, you never know with the live if we're gonna get the connection, the stable connection. Yeah, it looks like YouTube's live, so let's just wait 1 second, see if we can get on Instagram.
Plot twist. The one person live is us in the room.
Yeah.
So if Instagram is live,
It's gonna be up there, yeah.
Right.
So then at least we can see like the questions coming in. Yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did have some people drop questions in the last couple of days after we posted that we were going to be going live today. So we'll be able to go through those, and then hopefully people that log on, feel free to drop any questions in. We'll be happy to answer anything that you drop, and then yeah, we'll just keep an eye on the Instagram as well. So let's just give it 1 second to see if Instagram can connect.
yes, you're now live.
Yeah.
There we are.
All right, nice.
Hello everyone.
All right, so we're live on Instagram and YouTube. This is great. All right, everyone. So today we are at the Shanghai headquarters here at EF Kids and Teens in China. My name's Andrew Fico, and I'm here with two great guests today. We have the wonderful Miss Cassie Lee.
Thank you. Hi everyone. I'm Cassie.
And we have David Koth as well.
Hey everyone. Good evening.
So basically the topic of discussion today is going to be about your guys' journey, you know, kind of what you were doing before EF, what brought you to China, and then kind of the life cycle of the track that you've been on, and basically where you started to now that you guys are in leadership roles, what it means for you, kind of the strategies that you have for your employees, and kind of the operations that you guys are doing. So maybe I'll let Cassie go first.
Sure.
Ladies first.
Quite right.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm originally from northern province from China. It's called Shanxi. It's very close to Beijing. After the age of 18, I moved to the south to do my graduate, and then I went to Scotland. I actually did my master's degree in University of Glasgow. So after that, EF went to Scotland for like a recruitment journey, and then I got recruited, or I got an offer from EF. And then back in 2013, I moved back to China. So Shanghai got me like a position, and then that's why I came to Shanghai. So since then, I've been living in Shanghai for like 8 years. So I started as like EF teacher, and then gradually like moved up to senior teacher, and then got promoted as a DOS, and now I've been working in like 4 different centers, but currently I'm a senior director of studies supervisor. Well, that's pretty much me. Like
Very
summarize my 8 years.
Excellent summary. A lot of success. A lot of success.
Very nice. Like, would you say that anything particularly drew you to EF itself? Like when you were in Glasgow, did you hear about EF? Was it already on your radar?
Well, EF is actually like a very well-known like brand, like training provider. So when I was young, like we watched a lot of like English competition on TVs, and then EF has always been like one of the most like company that can provide a lot of like English students to attend the competition. So from like back in like when I was like 12, 13, I know, those people from Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, they speak really good English. They're from like they study in EF. So I got to know EF like when I was young, and then get into like working for EF. That was somehow like just by chance. This was my first job, and I've been working for EF since after I graduated. So once I saw the job advertisement, I'm like, EF, I heard about this before. Why not just give it a try? I studied English when I was in Xiamen University, and then study like educational studies. So that's kind of like a combination. I'm like, yes, English education, here we go. So I didn't really give much thought. So I was like, I'll just give it a try. It's my first job, like interview. And then something like I wouldn't expect, or I would never ever thought I can come this far. But like everything went just smoothly. I'm like, I like this company, so that's awesome. Here we are.
So like obviously we have a lot of international teachers coming from overseas, and they're hearing about EF overseas, and then like I think the biggest maybe worry or something that everyone thinks about is like, wow, like I'm gonna put all my eggs in one basket. Like I'm gonna put all of my faith into EF to provide me with the job and set me up and like integrate myself into a whole new environment. When you were applying and you got the job, were you already in China? Were you in Shanghai? Oh, so you were.
No, I was so bad.
You were like an international employee kind of, right? So you're like moving back. You already have your job lined up with EF. Is that correct?
That's kind of true. Or EF kind of pushed me back. I wasn't really thinking that much, and then I was like, I'll just give it a try and then see how it goes. And then everything just went really quickly. They were like, oh, you got an offer, and then when are you coming back? I'm like, oh, so this is me, so I need to make a decision. And then I was like, yeah, I'm coming back to China. And then I just packed up everything, flew back, and then quickly got relocated in Shanghai after that.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great story. It's interesting because like, a lot of times when we are working with like the colleagues from China, they are already here.
Right.
But it sounds like you kind of had like a more like similar experience to maybe David. David, if you want to kind of talk about your
absolutely, no problem at all.
Yeah.
So I was doing teaching in the UK. I was 10 years into primary school teaching. And then a friend of mine was finishing up their 3-year contract at EF. And I went and toured around China. And while I was touring around China, I saw some EF schools, and I visited Shenyang and saw the EF operation there. I saw what was going on in Shanghai. And I thought, come and give it a try, which was brilliant. Did the interview process, really great interview process with the recruiters. And then it was meant to be 15 months, and now it's been 5.5 years. I think what's really nice is kind of like, obviously, we're in a pandemic at the moment, and it's kind of reminded people don't plan too far ahead.
Right.
And so I never came to China thinking I'd be here 5.5 years.
Right.
It was all about making sure you got little milestones.
Yeah.
So when I was in my first month, it would be like, I'll go to Disneyland.
Sure.
In my second month, it was all about, I'll go to a museum. Third month, I'll do this. Fourth month, I'll do this. If you kind of join the company thinking, oh, it's such a long time and I'm away from home, then you miss things.
Yeah.
Whereas it's much better to kind of embrace the opportunities in the moment.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like I think one of the biggest things is just kind of taking things as they come.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess that leads me to like my next like question and topic is kind of like, So you started out as just a teacher,
Yes.
and now you're in a management role. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what that trajectory has been like, kind of the support that you've gotten from EF? Like, why did you feel like you would make a good manager? Like, what brought you to being like, okay, you know what? I want to take my career to the next step. I don't want to just be a teacher. Maybe I want to like start managing the school, managing the teachers.
Well, I think the best way to kind of summarize it would be there's a Jim Carrey film called The Yes Man. And in that film, it's all about saying yes to everything. And that's exactly what it was. When I joined the company, it was, would you like to do something on the weekend? Yes. Would you like to help out at a museum trip? Yeah, no problem at all. Would you like to come to headquarters, do some extra training? Yeah, no problem at all. And so you get to see more than the classroom. You get to see how big a company EF is. You know, been going for many, many years, 60 plus years. And you're able to kind of see there are so many avenues that you can dip into. And so when I was doing that, I was a teacher, I then became a senior teacher, I then became an associate director of studies, to now senior director of studies. And then for you, Cassie?
I think I agree with what you said just now. Like, you kind of need to take a step at a time. You wouldn't plan that far. But when you are reaching certain points, and then you kind of know, like, you know, I do want to give it a try for next level. So I think that was back in the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. I've been like, you know, teacher for this many years, and then the longer you stay with the company, the more you get to see, and then you kind of you have the motivation, like you want to be more involved, and then you sort of started, like, especially if you experience like a lot of, like, you know, different managers as well, like you started to wondering, like, what it's going to be like when you are a manager. So you kind of, you sort of like I want to give it a try as well. So when the chance is there, or when the opportunity arises, and then you sort of like, I need to grasp it. That's sort of like the main drive to push me to apply for the position, and then went for the interview, and then got the job.
So would you say that like the management like opportunity presented itself, or like were you like really working towards it? Like, you know, you said that you were taking things kind of like step by step, but at some point you're like, all right, I feel like the next like logical step in the career path is a management position. Were you kind of pushed from EF to be like they noticed your hard work, it was paying off, and you're like, all right, Cassie, like this is something that would be great for you? Or was it maybe something that you were just like, no, this is what I want? Or was it like, were you approached because of the work that you were already doing?
I think it's both ways. I started with a really small centers. So back in those time, our teachers. So from teacher to senior teacher, it was more like the center chose me. But gradually, once you know you grow, and then the center grows, and then I remember back in the times when we applied for, like, you know, DOS, there were like loads like applicants. So it was more of like, I need to go for it. I need to grasp this because I want it. And for like an EF teacher, apart from like manager path, there are actually like many other options as well. So by like at a certain point, you kind of need to decide for yourself, like, what do you want, and then work for it. Rather than just being there and then waiting and then say one day they will notice. So you kind of need to work your way out.
Be like a go-getter kind of.
For me, it was kind of more like the element of reciprocity. Because my line managers, when I was a teacher, had two wonderful line managers, a lady called Wendy, a lady called Serene, and they showed me what it is to be a manager, that pastoral care, the training, that side of things. And because I had such a great time in Shanghai, I wanted to have that kind of responsibility to be able to give teachers a wonderful time in Shanghai. So for anyone watching this, you'd obviously be starting as a teacher, and you get the full training, and you get all lesson plans and teacher notes, and you get upskilled and all those kind of things. So all these opportunities come your way, but the role of the DOS is to make the teacher feel settled and feel happy and secure. It's all Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's basically where we come in. And so anyone who's watching who's thinking, oh, I don't know, will I be trained? Will I be upskilled enough? We take care of all of that. And so, yeah, we love it.
That's awesome. It's funny because, like you said, you started at a small center. And from what I'm understanding, you were at like a very big center. Right?
I am, yeah.
So maybe can you talk about like how the dynamics might be like different, how they might be the same, like just together, like what do you guys think? You know, what would be some similarities that a teacher would experience in a small center versus a big center? And then what are some like complete differences?
Well, small center, I guess it's more family-like because it's very close. And then, of course, like if small center means like lighter, comparatively lighter workloads as well.
Sure.
But that's not going to stay like that forever. Like every center grows. We all experience like, you know, a center from like being like small, medium size, and then gradually grow to like a mature center. As it's growing, of course, like issues and then will like, you know, come up with as well. You kind of need to like change your mindset to deal with it. Like you kind of need to adapt to like, you know, the change of the environment, the surroundings as well. So
the key thing is the longevity of career is that you're able to kind of realize that it's a massive company and it's throughout all of China, but your center will have certain things that other centers don't do. It might be that one timetable on one day maybe is a little bit lighter or busier. It might be that you are going to have a training in the morning or a training in the afternoon. And that's what gives you that lovely family environment, that family feel. Because no matter what the size of the center is, you do get to know your team, you do get to know your friends, and then you do kind of not start comparing. And I think that's a really important thing. You can't come thinking everything is going to be exactly the same, because you should come and join EF as an EF teacher thinking, what can you give EF? Whether you've got skills to make a newsletter, do a photography club, teach children to play chess, like anything like that. You're not going to find all those elements in the same center. So it should be about what can you bring.
Two words, or well, one word that you both said that resonates and like that I think about a lot is like family, right? So there's like this very strong connection among teachers and among different employees through different various levels of the company, right? So you guys are DOSes, but I'm sure that you're interacting with like, you know, the teaching assistants.
Absolutely.
And, like everyone in the whole operation is kind of working cohesively. How do you guys like maintain that? Like, I know it kind of comes naturally and you can't really push it on people. Like, it's not something that you can be like, all right, guys, team building. Like, if you're not there, then you're not a part of the family type of thing. But like, do you guys have some strategies as managers to try to keep that like really cohesive environment, keep people, you know, excited and like, you know, ready for, you know, especially right now because internationals can't be traveling very frequently back home to visit families. We're dealing with a lot of changes and like, what type of things do you guys do or do you try to implement within your direct you know, your teachers and your PAs and stuff? Like, do you have any strategies that?
Well, the way to think of it is it's really service is key. So if you think about anything, whether it's like a cinema subscription or a magazine subscription you have at home, the quality of the product, you know when your subscription is running out and you're contacting them and saying, I need another 12 months, I need another 12 months. If you've got a low quality product and they ring you up 12 months later and you haven't heard from these people and they're like, hey, we want 12 months more, then it's going to be a much harder sell. So because you become invested in your team, because you are answering calls and answering emails and they've got a good rapport relationship with you, when you're saying things like, we've got a team building, we've got some extra training, something like that, there's a more kind of willingness for them want to be involved. But if you are a hands-off teacher, I mean, there's a famous saying, no teacher is an island, and it's exactly the same at EF. Like when you are so in the community, you want to work and you want to do extra things together. But if you come thinking, I'm just going to be isolated on my own, your docs won't let you. Your docs will be like, come and join us, come and be integrated.
The ringleaders.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's cool.
And for you, Cassie?
I think like for managers or for academic leaders, you do want to retain like your staff, and then you make them feel like they're home and they are supported. Of course, we always have this in our mind, but sometimes I'm thinking you kind of need to just you make your own decision, and then you stick to it, and then you be honest with your staff first. You don't do things purposefully. You don't like, oh, I think I'm going to plan this, and then this will probably make them happy, and then this will probably make them feel like, oh you don't want to. You want to do it out of like a rationale that you are going to stick to, rather than I simply want to do this to make them happy. Sometimes we'll go like not as you expected or not as you planned. But if you invest your time, if you invest your effort, and then you show them like you are an honest person and you are doing what you told them, you stick to your words, and then gradually you will build up that kind of trust, and then they will rely on you gradually, rather than after one night of drinking or karaoke, I like this manager, I'll trust whatever he or she says. So I think trust is probably one of the biggest things that you have to build up in your employees. And like you said, being like your genuine self, like authentic, like do things because it's what you feel is best for the school and the center and the employees. So I guess the next question I have for you guys is, what type of strategies do you have? I'm not talking about on like the, like morale boosting side, but more on like the career development side. Like what type of things do you try to provide, and like how do you approach your teachers to, push them to the next level? Because as teachers, you're starting out, you're in a new country, in a new environment, like maybe you kind of just want to like take things slowly. So like, is there something that you guys look for in a teacher that you're like, all right, I know that this person's ready for that next step to maybe take on some more responsibilities? I think we're, for me, like I'm more of like serving as a supporter along the way. So whoever comes, whoever arrives, we always have the first conversation, like the DOS meeting or the orientation meeting. There will be always two questions I ask, like, why are you here? Like, what's your goal? It's okay that people say, I don't really have any goal. I just want to take a year and then see what it's like in China. That's completely fine. That's good. For me, I just want to know where you are at your life stage now, like so that I can help you. For a lot of new teachers, when they first arrive, it's completely fine, or it's very normal for them to come with, I don't really have a 5-year goal. Like, I'm only here for like 12 months, contract, but that's fine. And then, okay, so what's your current challenge? And then what can I do for you for now? And then as you stay longer with them, and then they started to have like, more and more like, knowledge about China and how they feel about, working here. And then once, things come up, they were like, oh, I think I want to try that. And then this is time you kind of give it a kick. And then I think you are the right fit for this or for that. You are, you're very organized, and then you're detail orientated. You're like the right fit for this, role. From the other side, I think EF, the company itself, it has already got like a very complete, I think a very complete, like, comprehensive like career ladder for each teacher to develop. So make it very clear to the teachers at the very beginning, like, this is where we are, but what's ahead of us? What are the options? So you kind of let them know like what's ahead of them, like give them some sort of like prep. So when they are ready, when they want to, and then, you guys can start it like planning and then go for the next step. So it sounds like there's like almost like 3 parts for like your strategy is like, that there's already the career ladder that EF has implemented that has been provided to every teacher. Then there's like, you have to build the connection with the teacher. Right. That's very important. So have a relationship, make sure they trust you.
and then you have to figure out like what the teacher is looking for.
Yes.
Are they only looking for maybe just like, you know, their experience in China
Yes.
with a stable job,
Yes.
be able to work for a great company that's going to support them in whatever endeavors that they have. But it's kind of funny because like your plan was, David, you were only planning to be here for like 15 months.
Absolutely.
And here it is 5.5 years later. Like what kind of, like, so your approach might be a little bit different to teachers, right? Like,
well, the key thing is kind of, it's very much like Cassie says, like you kind of have to make sure every teacher who comes knows that if they're unsure what they want to do, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Like we are educational professionals and people learn at different rates.
Right.
And our teachers will decide what they're doing for their future at different rates. And so we give plenty of opportunities to show extra avenues in the company. They can do 1 year, they can do 5 years, but you don't have to arrive thinking, I know what I'm doing for the next 10 years of my life, I know what I'm doing. And I don't know for Cassie, who's in 8 years, but if I'd been told that I was going to be here 5.5 years, I'd be thinking, that's too much to comprehend. It wasn't in my projection. But because the career path, because the friends that you make, because of the lifestyle of the city, it definitely becomes a home. But you have to have the right mindset. Like if you come out and you're like, oh, they don't have this cereal in the shops, and I can't get this food in the shops. Like there's no point traveling the other side of the world because you come for the culture, you come for the experience. Like you could be having a job anywhere. Why did you choose to come and work in China? So yeah, they should do it.
Yeah, so be very open-minded, it sounds like. So I guess what type of advice or how can we be more proactive to kind of follow a similar track that you guys had, like a very successful, career-driven, like you guys have tons of responsibility. Sounds a little overwhelming at times, I'm sure, but like, yeah, like it's very inspiring to hear your guys' stories. So what kind of advice would you give our audience if they're looking to make the move and, you know, they do want to further their career, they're not looking for just maybe like a year to travel?
It's got to be the work-life balance, really.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, when we're working Monday to Friday, our day starts later. And then when we work on a Saturday and Sunday, our day starts earlier. So you know when teachers come in and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and they're saying, good morning. And you're thinking, what have you done with your day? so you want to make sure that work life is kind of, you know, are you going to a museum? Like I'll go to the cinema in the morning. I'll go and play bowling. I'll go and look around the city. Because once again, you've chosen to come to either Shenzhen or Shanghai or whatever city in China it is. Don't just make your life your home and the office.
Right.
Otherwise, why did you come to China?
Absolutely.
I think something you mentioned just now is just like the key word, be open-minded. If you're already thinking about like coming somewhere else on the other side of the world, I think that's already like one step there. Like just be brave, just take the next step, see where like it takes you, and also be ready for whatever happens. If you made a decision, like stick to your decision. Like don't be like, oh, I regret, I shouldn't, I could have done that. Well, just go with the flow and then see where life takes you.
Yeah, very good. So I guess maybe more for David, maybe for you when you were in Glasgow, what kind of habits did you have? And did you bring any of them over here, like when you moved? Like, do you still do a lot of the same things, like in terms of like hobbies, like maybe more a bit about like your personal life? And like you talked about work-life balance is super important. Our hours can be, you know, they can vary. They're definitely different from the normal 9 to 5 office hours, which can be a good and a bad thing depending on like what you're into. But I found that it's like great, right? Because you have the mornings off. Usually the cities are quiet, especially if I was in Shenzhen. If you're in Shanghai, these big cities are so busy on the weekends. So it's almost like better to be working, you know, like when everyone's out and it's super busy and there's lines everywhere. So maybe like, what kind of things were you doing at home that you brought to China?
So it was more back in the UK, I'd kind of be always driving to work. I very much would be driving from home to school, stuff like that. Whereas in Shanghai, I'm doing a lot more walking around the city, using public transport. Definitely a better way of living for the world, certainly reducing my carbon footprint. But the other thing is kind of because I've never thought I'll be here for a long time. It's like I said earlier, those milestones are really important. So it'll be kind of like back in the UK, maybe I went to the IMAX cinemas. So I'm going to the IMAX cinemas in Shanghai.
Sure.
I did my midnight premieres back in the UK. I'll do my midnight premieres in Shanghai. So there's lots of overlaps and things like that.
Yeah.
But one of the excuses that people readily say for not coming to China is they don't speak the language. But in today's technological world, like you've got so many apps, you've got all the things where you can have everything delivered to your door. That's not a valid excuse at all.
Sure.
It's all about those kind of personal qualities which are transferable skills globally. So just having an open mind, good manners, being respectful. I mean, those things are key in China, like you'd want them to be key in the UK. So yeah, those things carry over.
Like the morals in your character as a person, like that's not going to change, but you do have to be a little bit more like you are moving to a new country, so you have to be open enough to kind of accept some different cultural differences, right? What about you? Like, I guess because you have spent time abroad, and then your move back, you know, was starting with EF. And
I think wherever you go, you sort of need to somehow develop or foster your own friend circle. Like you sort of need to have like a bunch of people who got your back. No matter if I was in UK or, you know, I was in here, like I'm here in Shanghai, I'd always have a bunch of friends. Like, you know, those people are the ones that you go to when you need to switch your modes, like from a working mode to like I'm off work now. Like I can vent, you know, I can let it out, and then I can get recharged, and I can get ready for another day. Of course, you know, Glasgow, UK, you'd always go for a drink, you know.
You did that here too.
That's something. I think that's something like I kind of like kept like after, you know, I come back in Shanghai, you know, I still have my friends.
Are we talking coffee shops or bars?
Or both. So you kind of need to have that sort of like, you know, I don't think you'll be able to live on your own regardless. You know, you just need to have your people with you. Definitely.
I think it's a difference between some people will come to China and they'll think that they're kind of putting their life on hold while they think about what they're going to do next. And you have to realize that you're not putting your life on hold, you're just taking your life a different direction. And then, I mean, I found my wife in China. And I didn't think I'd find my wife in China when I came out. But if I'd have been like, oh, I'm just going to be doing some stuff and then go back to the UK. But because you're so open and you're embracing the opportunities that come, you realize it develops your personality. It gives you life skills. It gives you moments you're never going to forget. And you build up a huge network of friends, which you can't escape the fact are global. I've got people I can stay with in South Africa. I've got people I can stay with in New York City. I've got people in Australia who I've already stayed with. If I hadn't come to EF, I wouldn't have met this environment and circle of friends. So it takes it away as well that it's not just a job. It is a new direction for your life, and it's great.
Yeah, that's amazing. And would you say that most of the people that you are close with, that you are friends with, you just mentioned that you visited people in other countries, and you have like access to places that you probably wouldn't if you hadn't come. Are a lot of your friend circle from EF?
Yes.
That's good.
Like I would say most of my friends now are from EF or were from EF. I think it's very difficult for adults to make new friends, especially after you start like, you know, your job and then you have your own schedule. Working for EF is something, you know, definitely unique. Is you kind of have like, especially if you work for like different English centers, you have like a slightly different working schedule compared to the, you know, Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. I've been having Tuesday and Wednesday off for 8 years. That's just my regular week now. Like you mentioned, it's good. It's good for like, you know, living in Shanghai. You get to visit the gallery, museum, like with way less people, crowds there. That kind of determines like, you know, we get to stay or closer or spent more time with EF people because we kind of share the same schedule.
Yeah. And then I'm sure that it has to help the office environment, right? Like when you build these like strong relationships with your colleagues, it just makes like any difficult situations that might come up a little bit easier to resolve and come to a common ground and come to a solution. What about you? Like that's
a really good point, because basically if you think about people who work in the UK or work in America or wherever they work, you're normally working in an office environment with people who have a set way of thinking, and you won't get on with everyone. Very often you'll find people you work with who you just don't rub well with. That doesn't happen in EF because you have to have had that mindset to want to relocate in the first place, and very few people will want to make that leap. And so straight away your circle of friends are very much like you've got lots of common interests, and you've got lots of similar ways of thinking about life and thinking about what you can do and making it more purposeful. And then that certainly opens up the world of friendship. But also what's really good is it's not just in your center. Like loads of my friends are in different centers, and lots of my teachers are in apartments with other teachers from other centers. So you're not just seeing the same people day in, day out. Like you'll be meeting up with people outside of hours, like Cassie says, who've all got Tuesday off or who've got a Wednesday off, and that becomes your weekend.
Right. And do you feel that the EF network also kind of influenced your career path a little bit? Like, does that make sense? Is like maybe not like your direct line manager is like telling you like, all right, Cassie, all right, David, like you guys are doing really well. Like, let's push you to do some more in the center. Let's give you more responsibilities. But like maybe more of like your network that has been opened up through EF, like, and then talking to your friends that you've made and seeing their career develop through EF. Like, would you say that has been a big influence as well on, kind of where you are today from where you started?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, like any job, you get a job appraisal, you get performance management, and EF's no different. As an EF teacher, you'll be observed 5-6 months at a time. You'll be able to be given ideas about where to go next with your career. But again, the great line managers, of which there are so many in EF, don't just see that teacher every 6 months. They know in month 1 and month 2 and month 3. And so you have to make sure, if a teacher's doing a gap year, then they're going back to maybe do something at university. And it's about always respecting those decisions, those life choices, and making sure that if they're there for just 1 year, they have the most amazing year. And then they'll tell someone else to come and have an amazing time as well. Like I said, the way that I started with EF was by seeing my friend who worked for the company. And EF has a system as well where you can refer your friends to come and join the company as well. And so whether you're here for a short time, a year or a bit more, or whether you go even longer, it's plenty of guidance and advice of where to go.
Awesome. What about you, Cassie? What do you think?
I think once you have your your social network, and then you started to meet people from different centers, and then you kind of course you're going to compare, like, what's it like in their centers, what's it like in ours. But I think EF has been doing a very good job to make sure a lot of things are aligned throughout the schools, and then throughout the city. So now even throughout the whole nation, we're trying to align things among Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and all the own cities. And then you kind of need you stay with your friends, and you kind of just get motivated by them as well, because we all got involved in different projects and different events, and then you would say, oh, my friends is doing that, that's cool. That's a some sort of marketing event that they're doing, that sounds fun. How about we can do this in our center? Or you started to get more involved. That's how when I mentioned you want to be more involved into the company rather than stay in your own schools. So I think gradually you kind of sort of you grow or you develop through those opportunities. Sometimes you wouldn't even realize that you actually developing yourself by doing so.
Absolutely. And also because it's obviously an educational business, you've always got minds which are looking for the next thing to capture the market and engage your audience, because we have children who start with us from the age of 3 or 4 years old who we want to retain to the age of 18 years old. And so if you're churning out the same product and the same way of thinking, the same methodology, it's very hard to motivate a child to stay that long. Whereas the company is kind of like every couple of years, we've got new products and new ways of selling things and new ways of engaging children. And that stops the teacher from also becoming a bit kind of like, I'm doing the same thing. It's like, Unit 5, Lesson 3, here we go again. I taught this 6 years ago. There's none of that. Whereas in the UK, because, I mean, the national curriculum does not exactly evolve. You're teaching tutors, whether you did it 10 years ago or whatever. Whereas EF is so modern thinking, forward thinking. In the pandemic, we obviously made CNN News because we were the first company to shift our operation online. I mean, it's wonderful to be a part of a company with those kind of brainchilds.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about kind of like how we are adapting to the market and how we're always like trying to think innovatively and capture the greater audience, provide a new product, roll out new products, change products. How do you guys challenge yourselves? But then also, you know, we're talking about like a lot of the new teachers that are coming in from overseas. Like, how do you, it's kind of like a fine line where you have to like build the relationship, build up the trust with these teachers, but you also want to challenge them too. Right? Regardless if they're just going to be here for 12 months or
12 years.
12 15 months.
4 years away, Cassie. 4 years away.
So yeah, like what type of things do you guys do? Because now that you're in leadership roles, like how do you continuously challenge yourself? Like what are some things that you guys are working on now to not only benefit yourselves but also your centers?
Probably all across the center work that we do together. Like we'll meet every month and we were like, what's working really well? What's
so you're saying from your center, David, with Cassie's center, you guys will meet, right? And
to like a whole region,
like
6 or 7 centers, kind of like a focus group, for lack of a better phrase, where it's kind of like, how have your parents been responding? How are your teachers responding? The key thing is always being respectful to those teachers with that pedigree of 5 or 6 years, because they will have taught the lessons previously. And if it's a new product and a new idea, they are having to kind of start over again. And so that's why the training is really key, which is wonderful, because the supportive network that we give our staff, that we get from our production manager above us, and that we get from fellow DOSes is really key. But we'd love to know, of course, what questions are coming in on this Q&A. So you can sneak around the camera to read the screen, and I'll interview Cassie while you scout.
I can see some on Instagram.
Oh, there we go. What
if you guys have questions, please roll them in. I was kind of looking at it.
Jake Riggs has a great question. One we can answer.
It looks like most of the questions are coming in about like, is China open? What are the possibilities to get here? China is open, and EF is doing everything they can to provide visas and get people here. Always trying to bring in new talent, new teachers from all different industries. So basically, the biggest step is to just apply and get in touch with one of the recruiters. And then from there, like, you know, it might not be as quick as when you guys applied or when I applied to come to China. But things are moving in the direction of a lot more efficiency to get people here. It's been a very tough, year and a half around the globe for any business. So obviously the complications of bringing in foreign staff to China specifically, which is such a, they're doing everything they can to minimize the outbreak. So they're being very careful about international travel right now, but they are still allowing international staff to come to China with work visas, which is really, really good.
I say for anyone watching, if you're able to get an interview with a recruiter, realize that like from that day you make that first impression, because we have thousands of people who apply to join the company, and not everyone makes it. And we'd love everyone to be able to get this opportunity and see this part of the world. But you have to realize, kind of like, if you've got an interview with a recruiter lined up, being in a car or being on the bus or kind of like being in a library down the road, you got to kind of definitely prioritize it from day one. Think about your appearance, think about the way you've done your research, and don't just think everything's a given, because we'd love you to be here. Take nothing for granted. I'm lucky enough that I still contact my recruiter, a lady called Haley in the UK, and the way that we had a relationship built from early on is really key. So being respectful, just like you will be when you come to China, respecting your recruiter, and make a great first impression.
Yeah,
definitely.
Keeping things professional, I think, is very important. And then also, like David was saying, like your recruiters, and also EF is like we were talking about the family vibe. So when you start talking to your recruiters, they might start talking to another recruiter, or they might start talking to other people on the visa team to help you get here. So everything that you do and say, and like David was saying, like make sure that you're in like a quiet space if you're having an interview, and just like being very respectful. Like those things go a long way, because everyone, you know, we all talk to each other. We're all like very transparent with one another. So we definitely, we like to get as many people here as we can. So the first thing to do would definitely be getting in touch with the recruiter.
Yeah, so that's probably how we came up through the company. Like in my first year, I was doing MCing of a Christmas party, which some of our children came to. Cassie's been making content and writing content for the company, which is rolled out and training things. And so, yeah, it's all those contacts that you build, and it's key.
Yeah.
Networking.
Yeah.
Very good. So I guess, let's see, we have a couple questions. I guess one of the things would be like, we're giving advice about like, how can we start the steps to get to EF in China? What other advice would you give anyone looking to make a move into being a teacher? Like we did talk about being open-minded. But I think, you know, for me, it was like a career change, right? Like I was working in another industry for a couple of years, and then I moved here. What kind of advice, like career advice, would you give if you are changing careers? Because we do see a lot of teachers come in. You know, we even have teachers that are, they're applying to like PhD programs and stuff like that. So, you know, how can they use their experience here, whether it be for a short term or a long term? Like, how can they use it to even help them with their next step, whether it be in EF or further?
I mean, the teachers at my center, I've got geography degrees, art degrees, and people always say, I didn't think I'd be a teacher. I didn't think I'd be a teacher. And I think that's the key thing, first of all, to realize that whether you're coming to China to do some traveling, you are coming to China to teach. And so it's about understanding that, you know, teachers have the right boundaries in the classroom, know how to respect the children, know how to respect the parents, know how to respect themselves and each other. Also from that, again, you'll be fully trained. Like, don't worry at all if you're like either media studies or film studies. If you've got your degree, you're going to be trained. So that's key.
So something like David mentioned, like you will be trained, like fully trained. But something you want to like keep in your mind is you come here to teach, but you also come here to learn as well. Something I always taught my like new teachers when they first came, like it's okay to make mistakes. We are not looking for like a very experienced teacher or a star teacher at the very beginning. Like if we have someone like David who has already got like 10 years experience, that's wonderful. But if you don't have any experience, that's fine. We're looking for someone who's trainable, who got the potentials. When you don't have any teaching experience, that's fine. We're here to help you to gain more. You don't know what's teaching like, that's fine. We're here to show you what it's like to be in the classroom. You don't know how to interact with kids. That's fine. We're here to give you all the guidelines and then what you can do and what you shouldn't be doing. So as long as you want to learn and you would like to reflect and you would like to, you know, be trained, I think that's kind of the key to start a job. Yeah,
I think that just goes like with any job, right? Is like to be coachable. To be willing to collaborate. What I do like though, that my experience here so far has been really welcoming, is because even like people like David who have been here for many years, and you, Cassie, like if I as a new teacher have an idea and I think it could improve process, or maybe it could engage students a little bit more, the teachers can work more efficiently. Like you guys are so open, right? Like you're never
Oh, it's one of the values, like entrepreneurial spirit. It's literally written in black and white, which they're trained on. Like teachers are encouraged to have entrepreneurial spirit, to be able to think of something that hasn't been done before, to be able to think of a new way of delivering a new idea or a new execution of a task. And it's sometimes in an element to kind of do it first, plan it first, and then you can go up to the chain and be like, can I do this? Can I do this? Like it's not a nanny state, and it's not like people all the time micromanaging and saying, do I have permission to try and do this? Oh yeah, you have permission to try and do this. And so if you have a geography degree and you want to come in and do something about sustainability and recycling in the center, which is what one of my teachers did, that's brilliant. And then other centers start doing something with recycling. Or if you're doing art, then they're designing posters. It again comes back to, as a teacher, as an EF teacher, we can teach you, you can learn with us, but what can you bring to the company to make your mark?
And then people might wondering like, oh, so, you know, what are the chances? What are the opportunities? But it's actually everywhere. So you work for like a group of people, you work with them, and then no matter if it's a teaching job or whatever job it is, you will definitely face or encounter some issues or challenges.
Of course,
it's very normal for people to notice something that you don't like and then you start to complain. But how about you change your mindset and then you notice something is not right, and then what can you do to make a change? That's kind of where you started. Once you change your mindset, and then once you like, oh, maybe I can do something to fix it, and then you sort of like taking another like step already, and then with your manager there to help or to facilitate. So by doing this, maybe you want to think about like adding something like that, and then start to perfect your plan, and then you go with that, and then that's kind of you taking steps, and then you started to have your own project. By doing that, you started already have your opportunities, and then you started already like, you know, showing people like what you can do, what else, what more you can contribute, and then gradually, and then people will notice you. Like this is the person who has the entrepreneurial spirit, and who take this company as their own, like who want to make it better. And then, you know, when opportunity or when, you know, promotions are there, then, you know, that's kind of like ready or for those who are ready for it.
For any would-be EF teachers watching, if you do have education experience like I did, the really important thing is to make sure you don't come thinking you know everything. You can't come to the company and be like, oh, I've been a teacher back in my home country, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I'm a finished article. It's really important to realize that there are some methodologies that will carry over, and you'll be maybe slightly quicker at lesson planning, but you have to realize, just become a blank slate, and you'll learn the company way in no time.
And like everyone's always learning here. From the moment that you pretty much get off the plane, you know, you're learning about like a whole new language and culture and environment. But then also when you're at work, in the office, or in the classroom, there's so many different teaching practices that you're absorbing, and there's trainings, and that is the one really nice thing, is that like you feel like there is some sort of support system, like, and it's and it could be more for like your interpersonal skills, or it could be like very academic based, and it's like, this is the way that we're going to start teaching this type of lesson, this age group or type of student, which is really nice.
Well, I saw one of the questions which said, when will the recruiter get in touch? And I think you kind of have to think like a rule of thumb there. If you're contacting them for the first initial thing on a Thursday or a Friday, you're probably not going to be hearing back from them until the next week, because they'll be cycling through things. If you're at the start of the week, you'll probably hear from them in the next few days. But if you are successful enough to get to China, like you said, the welcome, I mean, we're always there to collect the teachers at the airport. Like, there's no anxiety for how do I get to my hotel, and what am I going to do, and how do I get to headquarters. Everything's taken care of. All you have to do is pass your interview, get your visa, get on the plane, and then everything else is taken care of.
I will say, like, you know, we are there for every step of the way. Like, there's nothing really forgotten. We're checking all the boxes, and we're making sure that all of the things in black and white that need to be done are definitely taken care of. On like a planning standpoint, if you are planning to move to a new country, it's just like some of the logistical things that you have to think about in your personal life are still like definitely need to be considered. You know, we're not going to like literally spoon feed people all the way through the process. However, when it comes to like the actual like job itself, we do our best to really, really just like make it as open as possible, which also like on the other side, you kind of need to be that open slate and be willing to absorb. You need to be that sponge. So like David was saying, like if you do have teaching experience, that's great. And we welcome any kind of teaching practice and new methodologies and any kind of strategies that you have in the classroom, or maybe even with lesson planning or working among the other teachers. However, like we do have the system and the structure that has been successful for many, many years put in place, and we're not going to steer people in the wrong direction. We're going to make sure that, like, I was a teacher with no experience, and within a couple of weeks I was teaching, you know, lessons like super confidently. You know, I can't talk about my first lesson. That was probably like the biggest nightmare in my life. But it was like, yeah, it's just one of those things where the academic and the career side, you're never forgotten, or you're never like, you know, in the dark about anything. So like, I guess the impact that you can make is like very, very, it's not hard to make a positive impact. And like David said, from the moment that you talk to a recruiter, you submit your application, your impact and the way that we interact with you, like it all really depends on like how you present yourself. And we're here for like any questions. So that leads me to the next part is, I mean, it seems like we have a decent amount of people watching right now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in. We're happy to answer anything. It seems like some of the questions are about China's borders. We have questions about applying. Yeah, just submit your application. Recruiters will get back to you. Like David mentioned before as well, if you do it probably earlier in the week, that's probably better for response time. Yeah, so let's see if we have any other questions. We did promote this live stream a couple days ago. So we had a couple of questions. Maybe I'll just look at one.
Right.
It seems like we covered most of them.
Excellent.
Which is really good. So since we're talking about applying and that process, what are some key points to include on the CV?
Well, I'd say, first of all, before the CV, know what you're applying for.
Right.
Like, I mean, EF's websites give a lot of information. There's a lot of information out there about kids and teens. Obviously, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, stuff like that. So don't go in knowing nothing about what you're actually applying for, because then you might have some questions that you want to ask your recruiter instead of waiting for further down the process before it all starts. Your CV is, like we said, those transferable skills. If you talk about like how good you are at adapting and trainability and all those kind of things, what would you say?
Well, pretty much the same, like knowing what you're applying for. By knowing what you're applying for, you sort of need to like kind of know why you are a good candidate for this position, and then showcase those skill set, like what if possible on the CV, like what's the related experiences that you think will help you or help your recruiter understand you more. Because bear in mind, the recruiter will receive tons of like application every day. So like the first step is to read your CV and then to see like, oh, okay, do I make a next step to contact her? Is it, you know, worth the time, and then to continue the process. So something like you want to make it like a wow factor, and then make people see you. Like, I think it's a similar, like, you know, to every like you know, job application. You want to make yourself stands out among all the applicants.
Definitely.
Yeah, the best analogy would be kind of like a football team that's in the semi-final and they're already thinking they're playing in the final and they get knocked out in the semi-final. So don't be thinking, oh, when I come to China, I'm going to do this, and where will I live, and where will I do that? First of all, have the interview. do the interview and make a good impression, and then just take it a step at a time. And then, like I said, when you come to China, give yourself those milestones. They're really key. Like, what am I going to do here that I can't do in my home country?
Yeah.
What will I do 6 months down the line?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be I'm going to become fluent at Mandarin in a year.
Right.
Because again, in this technological world, you don't need to be.
That's very
But
true.
it helps. It helps.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining the live stream and
Thanks
all
very
the
much.
questions. It was a pleasure. And David and Cassie, thank you so much. You guys
Thank
provided
you,
so
Andrew.
much.
Thank
good
you so much,
information.
Andrew. Wonderful MC.
Yeah. I really hope everyone listens, and we'll have the recording after we end the live stream. So if you missed anything, feel free to watch it, and drop in any questions that you might have.
Comments.
Comment. Make sure you follow the Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook accounts, and we're here to answer any questions that you have. So thank you so much, and thank you, David and Cassie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
indeed,
you,
everyone.
Andrew. Nice
Good night,
talking.
good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.